afternoon, depending on where you are. Today is the 24th of July. The rain is wrapping up outside of my house right now, and we have a few minutes before I get into one of our calls that we have on Wednesdays to do a little bit of a weekly wrap up on the markets. So I just wanted to pop on here real quick. We'll try to keep this short. Take a look at the morning news, the CoinDesk 20 performance update. Again, XRP and NEAR are helping push the index upward. Seems like for whatever reason, when the CoinDesk 20 is having a lagging day or time frame, it seems like lately when it gets pushed back up into a positive territory, it seems to be these two projects that seem to be the one pushing forward. So as you can see here real quick at the time, now this was about an hour ago, but NEAR was up a little over 3%, XRP close to 5% for the day. This quick read just says CoinDesk Indices presents its daily market update. The CoinDesk 20 is currently trading at 2303, up about 1.5% since yesterday. 16 of the 20 assets are trading higher, which is good. I think the market sentiment in general is much higher today. And it shows the leaders being XRP and NEAR, and the laggards being Ethereum Classic and Uniswap. If we take a look over at the CoinDesk 20, you'll see not too big of a return so far on the 24-hour, but if you compare it to this dip from yesterday, we're back a little bit above where we were at the time we took the slide. So obviously the market seems to be recovering pretty good. Again, I know we kind of touched on this before, but the CoinDesk 20, for those of you who don't know, it's kind of like the 20 power players in one index to show kind of the overall market sentiment for the major players in the space. And again, for those of you who don't know, here's a quick little rundown real quick. I'm not going to read them out, but you can take a look at some of the projects that are on the list there. If we go over and take a look here at performance for the day on some of the kind of standards that we normally touch on, XRP you'll see flattening out a little bit up here, but up to roughly 63 cents this morning, which is a big push up from the 58 that we dipped down to yesterday. Bitcoin is kind of popping back up again, just like the rest of the market, kind of doing a lead here. The thing that I am kind of wondering here is why, again, with all the buzz around Ethereum, why Ethereum seems to be the one kind of losing some steam. The almost 1.5% down on the day. Again, I'm not a big one for knowledge on the ETF side of the world, so I'm probably not the best to speak on this, but as you can tell here, ever since this massive drop at the launch yesterday, still a little sideways from the bottom there, but on the same hand too, I don't see a lot of excitement. I think everyone was kind of expecting Ethereum to just skyrocket, but the ETFs, even though they had good movement yesterday on the ETF side, the coin itself, or the project itself, seems to be just kind of sitting flat for right now. The rest of the market is responding positively. Ethereum themselves, though, doesn't seem to be kind of getting the call. Again, we touch on Flare a good bit over here, partly because we believe in the broader connectivity of the market. One of the things I think that the Flare project seems to be hitting on and understanding is kind of like in the banking world, where for you to deposit a check that someone writes you in your account at bank A and the check was written on bank B, obviously there needs to be a level of connectivity for one bank to be able to move funds to another. In the event that obviously the buyer and the seller in this instance aren't using the same exact financial institution, Flare is kind of the backbone for those of you who don't understand or don't know too much about the project. They're kind of working to become the interoperability, in a sense, between the two banks in this instance. Not saying they're working with financial institutions, just using that as an example. But if you want to move in and out of Bitcoin to XRP or whatever the case may be. They're trying to build a lot of bridges to allow those transitions and those chains to work kind of in unison without having to speak different languages and have an interpreter in the middle. Big believer with my background being in finance years ago from the banking side of the world. That was always something, say, from a big bank to a small credit union in our area. There were times where that communication on the back end wasn't the clearest, and that's kind of what Flair's looking to solve in the crypto space. Algorand, again, a big believer in this project. I know it gets a lot of flack. Everyone thinks that, the developers and everybody just kind of disappeared. I still see a lot from the Algorand Foundation. I see the community itself seems to be pretty solid. Development and transactional volume on the chain seems to be nice and solid at all times. The coin is down substantially from where it has been in the past, but again, doing a little bit of a recovery today from yesterday. HBAR on the Hedera Hashgraph side, again, another project where I think it gets a lot of negative connotations because of kind of lack of development or, not a lot of explosivity. But I think a lot of this negativity in these real world projects comes from the fact that people see these meme coins go up 18,000% overnight because some celebrity puts their face on a t-shirt or, whatever the case is. But I think people need to start realizing too that there is a reason why some of these massive projects with real world utility, there's a reason why they lag behind. And, for to save you all of the long-windedness of what I think there, the reality of it is if you look at something like the stock market, even, a wild stock like Tesla, it has these big moves and these parabolic gains at times. But if you look at it over the greater sentiment, it moves with the development of the company. And, there are times where somebody can tweet something and it'll change the price. And yes, you had the GameStop fiasco a couple of years ago where, there was some community manipulation to make the stock itself rise based on, some groups of people who had a concerted effort to really focus on moving the price. But the truth behind, I think, a lot of these major projects in the crypto side is, and not to go into the weeds here, but if you were a major holder and a developer in one of these projects and you were trying to get a real world company, and I'll just throw one out there, for example, Dell or, any of these major computer manufacturers, if you really wanted them to buy into utilizing your project, the volatility of, say, a bonk coin or one of these meme coins is not going to be attractive to those companies. The lack of backbone on those developments and, these meme coins, it literally is a situation where a major corporation doesn't want to see the volatility in a project priced like that. Regardless of the utility of the coin, they don't want the volatility as they're testing the network, as they're trying to understand how it works, as they're being shown in a meeting. There, when you have the volatility of like 3-4 times increases or decreases in a 24-hour period, if one of these meme coins, in theory, was pitching to a real world large company, and in the time of a 4-hour meeting, if the volatility on that particular token went from, basement to attic and back again, and it would be a real hard sell for the solidity of the future of the project to show them that you're solidifying the market value of your coin or your token. Lack of volatility, as much as the average investor doesn't like that because there aren't huge gains over time, lack of volatility is how you're going to attract some of these large Fortune 500 companies. And I think that, that's what's lost on the Twitter investor when they get so worn out by something like XRP moving flat, or, not so much Flare, but let's use Algorand or HBAR. These three, for instance, moving sideways for so long and not having these huge parabolic runs up and down is actually what a Fortune 500 company is looking for. They're not looking for this wild volatility to try and get involved in a project. It doesn't scream strength and stability with all of this volatility. So I think, again, that's just kind of my personal opinion. I kind of went off on a little tangent there, but these coins that show consistent sideways action, small growth, small loss, lack of volatility, everyone out there looking to make $1 million from a $20 investment, meme coins is probably where you should be. Those are the ones with massive volatility. But the reality is when you look at the massive volatility, it doesn't do well in the corporate world when you're trying to adopt a software system or a connectivity project. So again, just my little kind of 2 cents on that whole deal. Same thing, when we look at Solana, which has massive growth, does do quite well, but we're talking $130 not long ago, and we're back up to 180, and that's great for those of you invested in the project. But if you're looking as a company to adopt the connectivity that Solana can offer, or a project that Solana can deliver to your company, looking at this volatility, while you may not be invested in the coin as the company, the volatility is terrifying. And we hear that in a lot of meetings with the folks that we talk to. Volatility is what scares them from crypto. So if it scares the average real educated investor because of the enormous amount of volatility, imagine what it does to a board of directors at a large corporation looking to adopt even the software side of what a company like XRP can provide. And that's the thing that everyone kind of needs to remember is at the end of the day, sorry for the little dip out there. I had a communication issue on a phone call. But, again, kind of where I was getting at is the volatility scares off board of directors and CEOs, presidents. And so, while the get-rich-quick idea of volatility is fantastic for those involved, understanding that long-term growth is really what we're looking for in some of the projects that we work with over here on our side. Back to it, Tron, TRX, again, I'm a big believer in Justin Sun. I think, the ideas of what Tron can be have changed over time. But if you look back, 10 years, 8 years or so ago when the project started kind of just getting off the ground, I think the general sentiment is the idea has the eyes have stayed on the prize for them, and that's one thing I'll give them credit for. Some meme coin info, you got Shiba Inu still seems to be struggling from that hack the other week. Doesn't seem to have really regained its steam. I'm not quite sure if that's community sentiment or if that's just bad headlines. Holochain or Holocoin, the hot token. I've kind of watched this project for many, many years. I think there's a lot of great opportunity here, but it's kind of a quiet coin, stays down in the top, or the bottom of the main list. But every once in a while we'll pop in here and take a look at the price. Again, still seems to be kind of sideways. Hasn't regained that 2 or 3 cents I think it was at one point during the major run. Avalanche. Again, not kind of running with the rest of the market, but staying pretty even today, straight across the board. Avalanche, I think, has some great opportunities coming to it. Still down pretty good from the all-time high, but there's a lot of coins and everything, being developed on there. A couple meme coins are popping up there on Avalanche now, like on Solana. So, if they get the same bump that Solana got from some of its meme coin activity, then you may see some big things out of this project in the future. Doge, thinking back to the first time I was introduced to this coin when it was less than a penny, and I kind of laughed, and I thought, again, coming from the banking sector, I just thought, who on earth would ever think that there's some real world utility here? And while they may, deliver millions or billions or whatever coins every single day when they, print new stuff or, mined or whatever you want to call it with them, it still seems to hold strong. For whatever reason, there's a solid community behind it, and they do quite well. And shame on me for not picking some up when I had a chance. VeChain, again, I know we get a lot of kind of flack when we talk about VeChain at times. This being a Chinese-based company is kind of in the negative for a lot of people when they think about it. But I think if you look at real-world utility, this is another one of those projects that has some real relationships, has worked with some big companies in the past, and still does. And I think with what they're trying to do with you know tracking and on-chain communication. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at one time they were, utilizing their barcode system with a company that basically allowed you to scan like let's just say a pack of apples. When you scanned it on the QR code, it would tell you everything from the moment the apple was picked, the temperature it was transported at, whether you knew if it ever got frozen. And, to some people that may not seem like real world utility, but with the craze of people who are trying to worry about what they eat and the health nut craze and the new world of trying to be fit and healthy and successful all in one, this is something that could really have some good opportunity for folks. I think there's a big chance to see a company like this with the interoperability of being able to utilize supply chain information and have it at the tip of everyone's fingers. I think is a real opportunity there. Again, two other meme coins here real quick. I said the other day, this one makes me laugh, but there's been some moves and the community seems to be growing, and I don't know if anybody really knows much about this cock inu or whatever you want to say it. It's it's got a lot of funny stuff. But if we go to their website really quickly, if you take a look here, believe it or not, pretty big market cap, 154 million. And yes, again, the joke behind it is life is better when you have some cock in you, which again, grown man with boyish intentions over here, so it still makes me laugh. But a couple of things as you look at this is one thing that the meme coin world seems to really surprise me on is while it is a jokey, funny little object, if you will, they seem to have some things going on, and this cockbook is something that really kind of caught my interest as somebody who likes to on occasion throw a couple dollars on a baseball game or a football game, and utilize some. I like going to casinos and stuff for fun. I don't encourage gambling, but listen, a lot of the world does it. But this is a sports book. I haven't really looked too much into it. I haven't used it. This is not an endorsement. This is do not go run and put a bunch of money on here or anything like that. But when we took a look the other day at the usage of this, I don't know, it's not actually linking through, which is fine. I don't really need to go there right now. But the cockbook is basically a sports book. It allows you to do some gambling. It's got, over-unders. It's got everything that your standard, MGM books and everything else out there have. It's just, built on a blockchain. It seems to be utilizing some different types of tokens and stuff like that you can wager. So again, look, I laugh at meme coins. I think they're funny. I don't think a bank is ever going to take your cock coin as payment or anything like that. I don't think you're going to be able to buy, coffee at the Starbucks with your cock coin or anything like that. But the reality of it is if they can build some gaming backing or have any interconnectivity with real world usage, some of these things you may see them go through name changes if they ever grow big enough, because there's still real world sentiment that needs to be behind your project. But there's some real things going on here. If one of the things I thought was kind of funny, and again, this is not an endorsement of them or anything, but they have a ton of merchandise. And if you take a look at their merch, which again, it's not really wanting to load right now. I don't know if it's an issue with their website or if it's just my connection being that I'm streaming here right now. But their merchandise section's kind of funny. They have a ton of t-shirts and hoodies and different things like that all have funny sayings on them. So again, if that's your thing, and you're looking into that type of world and ecosystem, it's there for the average investor, if you will. But again, like always, be careful with these things. They go up fast, they go down fast. One other one that we take a look at every once in a while is bonk, and the only reason this even interests me is because, again, I think with the meme coin world, you see these increases of 8,000, 10,000% over time, and to me that just blows my mind. I'm still not a believer. I think that this is a great way to make money. It's also a great way to lose it. So you'll never get my endorsement on these coins, but again, just some funny little takes on things. One last thing here before we wrap up, we take a look, here on CoinMarketCap. they have an ever developing ecosystem over here. And one thing I think is very interesting when you take a look at what they do is if you go into cryptocurrencies and if you look back here to the historical snapshots, this always blows my mind. So we'll go back to a time frame when I was first introduced to the crypto world back at a banking conference. They brought up Bitcoin and how it may or may not have any traction. But, this was right around the same time I was at this conference. It was roughly this week of early March of 2014, and it was the first time I got introduced to the market. And it's funny because I looked at this last night and I just wanted to show some of you guys who maybe haven't been around as long. This is what the market used to look like. So if we would do a deep dive back to March of 2014, you got Bitcoin at a $7 billion market cap. I mean, to me, that's just wild to think about being in the trillions at this point. But Bitcoin was 636.96. At that time on the 7-day, it was rocketing up 13%. But look at number two. Ethereum wasn't out and about yet. It wasn't really anything but an ICO, even maybe at this point. But Litecoin was kind of like the number two. Aurora Coin, which most of you would probably never even heard of. And XRP number four. And, when the world acts like, XRP is dead, people do have to remember this coin has never left the top 10. There was a time when it was even higher than this, and it was trading at roughly 1.5 cents back then with a market cap of 115 million. So I always say to those who are non-believers in certain projects, never forget where you started. And if you take a look at the long-term holding of the XRP holder who hopped in back here or even before here when it was less than a penny, they're not doing too bad. Everybody wants to rag on the coin and say the project's dead, the company failed them, there's no money or growth. Hey, look, some people aren't in it to win it for this long of a period of time. But 10 years ago, this coin was much lower than it is today. Peercoin, I think, is going through some changes. A break off of them may actually still be around. Dogecoin back then, look at that, 0.30 zeros, 0.00087. So again, those people who think what a joke, like I did at one time, think about where that, and had that been my initial investment when introduced to this, wow, what could have been. The NXT token, is another one in there. Omni used to be a big one everybody talked about. Namecoin, Counterparty. Again, when I first hopped in and first introduced to this market, I thought, what is this that we're working with? But a couple that, make me laugh is Dash. Again, still around today, still holding strong. Obviously has increased from its holding back then. But some that make me laugh, let me see if I can find it here. This was in a different world for crypto than what we're work with today. But you got Hobo Nickels, so Sex Coin. And while these weren't necessarily meme coins back then, the market's always had its fair share of silly things. Lotto Coin, Moon Coin, Black Coin, a lot of these things. But then you see something like Digibyte, which still around today. And a lot of these still are around. They just have either changed their names or been dissolved into different projects. But Grumpy Coin and some of these really silly ones that to me I think are funny, but Corgi Coin, everybody acts like these dog coins are something new. Look, this, where's Corgi Coin nowadays? You know what I mean? Like these things existed 10 years ago. So, there's not a lot of new thought. And that's the one thing I think this whole project base in crypto really needs some fresh thought, because as you can tell, you got Dope Coin and Pot Coin down here somewhere, and Frozen back when the movie was big, Frozen Coin, and so this whole concept of Ron Paul coin. Anybody remember that? Anybody buying a Ron Paul coin back in the day? But this is just kind of something I wanted to touch on real fast. I'm not going to harp on it. But these are things too where let's start the controversy coin now. Tesla coin was around back then. Maybe Elon Musk had something to do with it. But this was just to show real quick that the world has changed so much in the crypto space. But at the end of the day, look, it really it's still the core base of it, if you ask me, still lies with things like Bitcoin and XRP and even Dogecoin. As much as I'm not a fan, I'll give them credit. They've held on long. But hey, look, this 25-minute video, if you're still here, thank you for sticking in through my ranting and raving. I apologize, it went way too long. But I just kind of wanted to tap on this. I ran into this the other night, and it kind of made me laugh. So, go into CoinMarketCap, go to the week that you were introduced to crypto, and see what was going on, see what you missed out on, see all the opportunities you could have invested in back then that are still around and could be, have made you a multimillionaire at this point. So either way, until we talk again, thank you. Again, as we always say here, this is not financial advice. This is literally just our ramblings in the morning. We do not offer any financial advice. Never buy anything because anything we say. Don't sell anything because anything we say. We deliver the news as we read it. Never invest anything you can't afford to lose if you do decide to invest in the market. And until we talk again, see you.